So it sounds like Russia bombs one of their own cities. Let's listen.
New attacks on the capital Kyiv after weeks of relative calm. Ukraine's armed forces say Russia unleashed at least 12 drones, but it says most were destroyed and there were no casualties or damage. This, as Russian state media says, a large blast in the Russian city of Belgorod, close to the Ukrainian border, was caused by an emergency release of an air ordnance from a Russian warplane. There was significant damage. At least one analyst described the scenario as odd. Let's bring in Ben Wiedemann, who joins me from Kyiv. It does sound rather odd.
Well, odd indeed. This happened at about 15 minutes past 10 o'clock last night, local time, where an Su-35 twin-engine fighter bomber dropped a bomb. I mean, the use of this emergency release of an air ordnance. They dropped a bomb on a busy street in the middle of this city of 400,000 people. Now, we saw on CCTV that it hit sort of on a sidewalk by the side of this busy road, causing one car to fly up into the air. Now, according to the mayor of Belgorod, 2 people were injured.
Whoa, that's crazy. And they're calling it an emergency air munition drop? What, did the pilot like mess up or something? Like, dude, why are the Russian like military so incompetent?
In this incident. Now, it is odd that this would happen in the middle of a town. Normally, if a pilot is experiencing problems, if he has to drop his bomb because of technical difficulties, he would do it in an unpopulated area, not in the middle of a city. Now, Belgorod is only 40 kilometers from the border with Ukraine, and on more than one occasion, the Ukrainians have fired back in the direction of that city. I think in the early weeks of the war, actually, a Ukrainian helicopter conducted a strike on the city. I think sometimes it's hit by Ukrainian drones as well, but this incident certainly will be jarring to many of the residents of that city. Max?
OK, Ben, thank you. The US says Western allies have now provided $55 billion in security assistance to Ukraine and are promising to build on their progress. The US Defense Secretary spoke at the Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting in Ramstein, Germany, where
The United States, uh, in situations like this, the United States has so much money to give. You know, the United States loves war, but when the citizens request, money for like funding of schools, healthcare, and stuff like that, the government is always like, nah, we don't have money for that. We already given you guys enough money.
where he said America rejects Vladimir Putin's view of the world.
All of us have come together to stand up for Ukraine and for a world based on rules and rights. We reject Putin's grim vision of a world where tyrants get to assault their peaceful neighbors and try to impose self-declared spheres of influence at gunpoint.
Also speaking from Ramstein, the head of NATO, who said the alliance remains committed to Ukraine's eventual membership.
All NATO allies have agreed that Ukraine will become a NATO member. But the main focus now is, of course, on how to ensure that Ukraine prevails.
Claire Sebastian here with more. And Ukraine always wants more than what it's being promised. What do you expect they're going to get today?
Well, so we know so far that Alexei Reznikov, who is the defence minister, has held a bilateral meeting with the US Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin, who you just saw there. He said it was fruitful. We don't know exactly what kind of promises were made. The US went into this meeting saying there were 3 key issues: air defence, ammunition, and what they call enablers, which are things that sort of help the overall mission, things like heavy-duty trucks and stuff to transport equipment. The Ukrainian side went into it specifically asking for NATO standard fighter jets. So it would seem that there is some daylight, but of course they are very clear rhetorically, certainly the NATO side, that they are in this for the long haul, that they stand with Ukraine and going to continue to tailor their response to the situation on the battlefield. I think The other elephant in the room, clearly, at this meeting is the issue of those Pentagon leaks, how that happened, the US trying to smooth things over a little bit with its allies. Take a listen to what Lloyd Austin had to say about that.
As I've discussed this issue with our allies and partners, I've been struck by your solidarity and your commitment to reject efforts to divide us. And we will not let anything fracture our unity.
So it would seem that's not just a message to his allies in the room, but also to Moscow, that NATO is standing firm in its support for Ukraine. We did get a Kremlin response, not to that, but to the comments from the NATO Secretary General saying that the alliance is essentially united on the view that Ukraine should join. The Kremlin saying that NATO continues to show its aggressive nature. They said, we're dealing with a